So the bad news is, once you get a tomato virus, you can't do anything about it that year, but you can do something about it the next year. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Friday, June 20th here in South Georgia, and this time of year we always get lots of messages, people sending us pictures of their tomato plants saying what's wrong with them, what can I do to save them. So they'll send us a picture of a tomato plant that maybe looks something like this one right here, and they want to know what they can spray on this plant to bring it back. Now, as I've told you before, I am not a plant pathologist, and it takes a decent bit of skill to just look at a tomato plant and identify exactly what's wrong with it. But it is apparent to me, after seeing a lot of these pictures, reading a lot of these messages, that a lot of people don't know that much about tomato viruses. So that's what we're going to discuss on today's video. We're going to talk about tomato viruses, how your plants get them, some of the common tomato viruses out there, and why there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. So as I'm sure you're aware, when us humans get a virus, there's nothing you can really take to cure the virus. You can take things to reduce the symptoms, but you just have to wait on your body to fight it off. Similarly, when a tomato plant gets a virus, nothing you can really do to cure it. But unlike us humans, which have pretty strong immune systems, these tomato plants we grow, a lot of times they're not able to fight it off. So when a tomato plant gets a virus, it can make the leaves look rough, or it can quickly just cripple and take down the entire plant. Either way, it's gonna have an effect on yield, and that's something we all don't want. So first, let's talk about how a tomato plant gets a virus. And when we're talking about this, we use the term vector. The vector is what is going to transfer the virus to your tomato plants. Now, most of your common tomato viruses out there are vectored by insects, and three main insects that vector tomato viruses are whiteflies, thrips, and aphids. And keep in mind here, as we're talking about this, it only takes one. It only takes one whitefly, one aphid, one thrip. Just like for you to get the flu, all you have to do is be around one person with the flu. It's not like you had to be in a room full of people with the flu. So insects are the most common tomato virus vectors, but you can also have mechanical vectors. So your hands, your tools, maybe even your clothing, if it has infected plant material on it and you touch a tomato plant with that stuff, it could infect it as well. And then the last possible vector, there are situations where the seeds or the plants you may buy are already infected with a particular virus. I don't think this one is that common, although a lot of people like to jump to this conclusion and blame infected seed or plants when they have a problem in their garden. It does happen, but probably not as often as you might think. Now, once your tomato plant gets a virus from one of those possible vectors I mentioned, not a whole lot you can do about it. You can't spray for tomato viruses. All your common fungicides and insecticides out there are not going to treat these viruses. Now, you can spray insecticides to lower the possible vector populations, reduce the number of insects you have that could transmit that virus to your tomato plants. But the chances that you're going to completely eradicate all possible viral insect vectors in your area is pretty slim. And so, as we'll talk about more at the end of the video, really the only two options you have are prevention and resistance. Now, prevention is pretty tough with the insect vectored viruses. Like I mentioned earlier, hard to eradicate all the insects in your area. Prevention, as far as the mechanically transmitted viruses, we can do that. We can have good sanitation practices and make sure we clean our tools and those kinds of things. But the main way is going to be virus resistant varieties. So let's go through four pretty common tomato viruses, talk about how they're vectored, their distribution, and what they look like when your plants get infected with them. So the first one is tomato yellow leaf curl virus, and this one is vectored by whiteflies. So whiteflies are the way this one spreads, and if you get it, you'll start seeing the edges of your tomato leaves maybe turning a little yellow and some significant curling going on there. Now, tomato yellow leaf curl virus is fairly regional, and I'll throw a distribution map up on the screen here, and you can see it's not widespread across the entire country, mostly only in the southern US. And so some of you won't ever have to deal with tomato yellow leaf curl virus, but some of you will. And I think that's why it's really hard for some gardeners to understand why we can't grow the same tomato varieties that they grow, and it's because we have different viral pressures based on where we live. Now, the second virus we're going to talk about is tomato spotted wilt virus, and this one is vectored by thrips. Unlike the previous one we talked about, vectored by whiteflies, this one specifically spread via thrips. So tomato spotted wilt virus, as the name suggests, starts out with little brown spots on your tomato leaves. It can quickly turn into the whole leaf turning brown, and it can quickly cripple an entire plant. Now, unlike tomato yellow leaf curl virus, tomato spotted wilt virus is pretty widespread, as you can see on this distribution map here. It's not regional and only in certain states. You can see it all over the country. However, the southern states tend to be more vulnerable, and that has to do with the thrip reproduction cycle. So it doesn't get that cold down here. Those thrips can persist and reproduce year round, and they're ready to go in the spring, ready to spread that virus. Additionally, some of the thrip species that transmit the tomato spotted wilt virus are more prevalent in the southern states. So while you may have thrips all across the country, certain species that are more prone to spreading the virus are really concentrated down here. So you could get tomato spotted wilt virus anywhere in the country, but if you live down here in the southern states, you've got a much higher likelihood of getting it. Now, the third virus on our list is cucumber mosaic virus. Just because it's called cucumber mosaic virus doesn't mean it's specific to cucumbers. A wide range of vegetables can get this virus, including tomatoes. Now, unlike the first one we talked about that was vectored by whiteflies, or the second one which was vectored by thrips, cucumber mosaic virus is vectored by aphids. And this virus is pretty widely distributed as well. You could get this pretty much anywhere in the country, and you'll notice you've got this virus when you start seeing what they call shoestring leaves on tomatoes. I know I've seen this before down here. It's one of those things pretty noticeable when it happens. If you got it, you know you got it. And the fourth tomato virus we'll talk about today is tobacco mosaic virus. Now, unlike the first three we talked about, which were vectored by insects, this one is not. This one is vectored by mechanical transmission. And I don't think this one is as common nowadays as it used to be. Probably not as many people using tobacco products as there used to be. But this one used to be pretty common with people touching tobacco products and then touching their plants or touching their tools and, transferring the virus that way. So tobacco mosaic virus, as the name would suggest, gives you kind of a mosaic pattern on your leaves there. It's fairly easy to identify, but like I said, I don't think that one is as common as it used to be. Probably not as big of an issue as the first three there on our list. Tobacco mosaic virus can usually be prevented fairly well with good sanitation practices. So those are the four tomato viruses that could give you the most problems. Some of you may never deal with some of those viruses based on where you live. So the viruses are out there, these insects are spreading them around. What can we do about it? Well, as I suggested earlier, not going to be possible to eradicate all the whiteflies, thrips, and aphids. We can minimize the whiteflies, thrips, and aphids, but it only is going to take one that has that virus to transmit it to your tomato plant. So the best solution, if you have persistent issues with tomato viruses year after year, is to plant virus resistant varieties. Now, some of y'all may disagree with me on this, and this may ruffle a few feathers, but I would not recommend buying seeds from a company, whether you're buying it out of a catalog or on a website. I would not recommend buying seeds from a company that doesn't list disease codes with their varieties. So a good reputable seed site, in my opinion, will have disease codes listed for certain varieties. Some sites will spell out the virus name or the disease name. Some will just use codes. For example, with tomato yellow leaf curl virus, you'll see TYLCV, or TSWV for tomato spotted wilt virus, CMV for cucumber mosaic virus, or TMV for tobacco mosaic virus. So find those disease codes or find those viruses written out and pick the varieties that can deal with those viruses that you might tend to have in your area. So the bad news is, once you get a tomato virus, you can't do anything about it that year, but you can do something about it the next year. You can pick varieties that are resistant to those viruses that crippled your plants the previous year. So let me know in the comments below if you deal with a lot of tomato viruses and which ones specifically plague your garden. As always, you can find some of the virus resistant varieties we like to grow, like this Firebird right here, on our website at lazydogfarm.com. And if you want to know more about the varieties that we like to grow, watch this video we did a few weeks ago showing you just how great some of our tomato plants were doing this year. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.